3 in the morning, the baby's crying again. I lift her from the crib, her tiny fists waving in the air, and settle into the rocking chair by the window. Outside, the streets of Asheville are empty, except for the occasional delivery truck rumbling past. This used to be the guest room in what was supposed to be our forever home. Now it's just me and Lily in a house that echoes with everything I destroyed. 8 months ago, I had it all. The kind of life people post about online with captions about being blessed. A husband who adored me, in-laws who treated me like their own daughter, and a baby shower that cost more than some people's weddings. 8 months ago, I thought I was clever enough to have my cake and eat it too. I wasn't. Let me back up. My name is Nicole, and if you'd met me a year ago, you would have thought I had won the lottery of life. At 32, I was married to Daniel, who everyone called the perfect husband. He was the kind of man who brought home flowers every Friday, who rubbed my feet when they swelled during pregnancy, who spent months designing the perfect nursery for our baby. Pale yellow walls with hand-painted butterflies, a crib that cost more than my first car, one of those fancy monitors that tracks breathing and temperature. The night he finished the nursery, he called me in with tears in his eyes. "Look what I made for our little girl," he said, voice thick with emotion. He'd installed this mobile with tiny wooden stars he'd carved himself in his workshop. Each star had a word painted on it. Dream, hope, love, joy, wonder. "So she knows what we wish for her," he explained, pulling me close. I stood there in his arms, feeling the baby kick, staring at those stars, and felt nothing but trapped. Daniel's family owned a chain of furniture stores across the Southeast. Not flashy money, but comfortable money. The kind where you never check prices at the grocery store and vacation means deciding between Tuscany or the Maldives, not whether you can afford to go at all. His parents, Robert and Catherine, had welcomed me into the family like I was the daughter they never had. Catherine took me to lunch every Wednesday at the country club. Robert had already started a college fund for the baby. They'd even given us the house as a wedding gift. A colonial in Myers Park with original hardwood floors, and a kitchen that belonged in a magazine. Catherine had overseen the renovation herself, making sure everything was perfect for her first grandchild. Everything was perfect, which is probably why I had to ruin it. The affair started when I was 4 months pregnant. I know how that sounds. What kind of woman cheats on her devoted husband while carrying his baby? But pregnancy did something to me. Not just the hormones, though everyone loves to blame those. It was the way Daniel looked at me, like I was suddenly made of glass. The way he'd panic if I lifted anything heavier than a coffee cup. The way sex became this careful, cautious thing when it used to be passionate and spontaneous. "We have to be careful of the baby," he'd say, and I'd want to scream that I wasn't just a baby carrier, I was still a woman. Enter Ethan. Ethan was everything Daniel wasn't. Where Daniel was steady and safe, Ethan was dangerous and unpredictable. He was our contractor, hired to renovate the pool house into a home gym. Younger than Daniel by almost 10 years, with the kind of body that came from actual physical labor, not from a personal trainer at the country club. He had this way of looking at me that made me feel like I was 22 again, before mortgages and in-laws and appropriate dinner party conversation. The first time was in the pool house. Daniel was at work, and I'd brought Ethan some lemonade. A cliché, I know. Bored housewife and the help. But when he took the glass, his fingers brushed mine, and a jolt went through me, something I hadn't felt in years. "Your husband's a lucky man," he said, not looking at the lemonade but at me. "Why do you say that?" I asked, even though I shouldn't have. "Beautiful wife, baby on the way, this house. Man's living the dream. It's not always what it seems," I heard myself say. He raised an eyebrow. "Problems in paradise?" I should have shut it down there. Instead, I sat on the pool house steps and told the stranger how suffocated I felt. How everyone saw me as just a vessel for the baby. How Daniel treated me like I was made of spun glass. How I missed being wanted, not just cared for. "You shouldn't look at me like that," I said when I realized how he was staring. Like what? Like you want to do things to me that would ruin both our lives. He set down the glass, stepped closer. What if I do? I should have walked away, should have fired him on the spot. Instead, I let him back me against the wall, let him show me exactly what he wanted to do. And for the first time in months, I felt alive. Not like a fragile vessel carrying precious cargo, but like a woman who could make a man lose control. The affair was reckless from the start. Ethan would text me while Daniel was in the shower. We'd meet when I was supposedly at prenatal yoga or shopping for baby clothes. Once, we had sex in the backseat of his truck parked behind a Denny's, like teenagers who had nowhere else to go. The danger of it, the wrongness of it, was like a drug. But Ethan wanted more than stolen afternoons. He'd run his hand over my growing belly and talk about the future. Leave him, he'd say. We could raise the baby together. It's Daniel's baby, I'd remind him. Are you sure? The question hung between us. The timing was ambiguous. Daniel and I had been trying for 2 years, had just started talking about IVF when I suddenly got pregnant. Right around the time I met Ethan for the first consultation about the pool house. It's Daniel's, I insisted, but doubt had crept in. As my due date approached, Ethan grew more possessive. He hated that Daniel got to feel the baby kick, that Daniel was the one at my doctor's appointments, that Daniel's name would be on the birth certificate. I'm just your dirty secret, he said one afternoon, pulling on his jeans while I fixed my makeup in his bathroom mirror. The side piece you'll throw away once the baby comes. That's not true, I lied. Because of course that was the plan. Have the baby, end the affair, go back to being the perfect wife and mother. I'd strayed, but I could find my way back. Women did it all the time, didn't they? The baby shower was Catherine's idea. She rented out the entire Biltmore Estate garden terrace for an afternoon in May. 200 guests, a string quartet, enough flowers to stock a botanical garden. The theme was Garden Party Elegance, which meant everyone in pastels and ridiculous hats like we were at the Kentucky Derby. Daniel gave a speech that made me want to sink into the ground. He talked about how I'd made him the happiest man alive, how he couldn't wait to meet our daughter, how grateful he was to have found his soulmate. The crowd eyed and dabbed at their eyes. I smiled and kissed him, tasting betrayal on my own lips. I was opening gifts, surrounded by a sea of tiny pink dresses and silver rattles from Tiffany's, when I saw him. Ethan, standing at the edge of the garden in a suit I'd never seen him wear. The champagne in my stomach turned to ice. He looked different, cleaned up, like he was trying to prove he belonged in this world of manicured gardens and champagne flutes. But the work boots gave him away. Expensive suit, cheap shoes. He'd tried, but he'd never quite fit into Daniel's world. That was part of what had attracted me to him in the first place. He wasn't supposed to be there, wasn't invited, wasn't part of this world. I watched him scan the crowd, his jaw tight with determination. When his eyes found mine, he smiled. Not the secret smile of a lover, but something harder. The smile of someone about to flip the table. My cousin Jen was reading out the gift tags in her sing-song voice. This beautiful bassinet is from the Richardsons. Oh, and these darling booties are from Aunt Patricia. I tried to keep opening gifts, my hands shaking as I pulled out a cashmere baby blanket that cost more than Ethan made in a week. But he was walking closer, weaving through the crowd of Daniel's business associates and my sorority sisters. Nicole, you okay? Whispered my friend Margot. You look like you've seen a ghost. I forced a smile. Just pregnancy hormones? But my heart was hammering so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. Ethan stopped to grab a glass of champagne from a passing waiter, raised it to me in a mock toast. Several guests noticed the gesture, followed his gaze to me. What a beautiful party, said Daniel's aunt, fanning herself with the program. Catherine outdid herself. Ethan reached the gift table. I have something for the baby, he said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. The chatter died. Daniel stood up from his chair beside me, confused but polite. "I'm sorry, do we know you?" Ethan looked at me and I saw it in his eyes. He was done being the secret. Done watching from the sidelines while another man claimed what he thought was his. "I'm Ethan," he said, setting a wrapped box on the table. "I've been working on your pool house." Among other things, the way he said it, the weight he put on those last 3 words, made several people exchange glances. "Thanks for coming," Daniel said, still polite but now wary, though this was an invitation-only event. "Nicole invited me," Ethan said. "Didn't you, sweetheart?" Sweetheart. The word landed with the force of a slap, stunning the polite garden chatter into silence. Daniel's face changed, confusion shifting to suspicion. Catherine stepped forward, her society smile sharp as a blade. "I think there's been some misunderstanding," she said. "Perhaps you should go." But Ethan wasn't done. He turned to address the crowd that had gone funeral quiet. "I just wanted to give my baby a gift," he announced. "A man should be able to give his own child a gift." The gasp that went through the crowd was like something out of a soap opera. Glasses stopped halfway to lips. The string quartet faltered, then stopped entirely. My mother dropped her champagne flute. It shattered on the stone terrace, the sound like a gunshot in the sudden silence. Catherine's friend Eleanor literally clutched her pearls. Someone's baby started crying, probably sensing the shift in atmosphere. "What are you talking about?" Daniel's voice was deadly quiet. But his face. God, his face. I watched the progression of emotions. Confusion, disbelief. Then the first flicker of understanding. He looked at me. Really looked at me. And I saw him adding up all the late nights, all the times I'd been distant, all the excuses. Ethan looked at me, waiting, giving me a chance to tell the truth. When I sat frozen, unable to speak, he did it for me. "Nicole and I have been together since January. Do the math." "You're lying," Daniel said, but his voice cracked. He turned to me. "Tell them he's lying, Nicole." Every eye in that garden was on me. 200 people holding their breath. I could hear the fountain bubbling in the background, birds singing. Normal sounds that seemed obscene in that moment. I found my voice then, shrill and desperate. "He's lying! Daniel, he's delusional. He became obsessed with me, started following me." "Show him the texts," Ethan said calmly. "Show him the pictures. Or should I?" He pulled out his phone and I lunged for it, my pregnant belly making me clumsy. The chair tipped. Daniel caught me, steadied me, and for a moment I thought maybe I could salvage this. Then he let go of me like I was poisonous. "Is it true?" he asked. 200 people waited for my answer. Catherine had her hand over her mouth. Robert's face had gone purple. My own parents, who'd driven down from Richmond, looked like someone had died. "Daniel, let's talk about this privately." "Is it true?" His shout echoed across the perfect garden. A baby at a nearby table started crying. I couldn't lie anymore. Not with Ethan standing there with proof in his phone. Not with the truth written all over my guilty face. "I'm sorry," I whispered. Daniel stumbled back like I'd hit him. Then he turned and walked away, pushing through the crowd of stunned guests. I tried to follow, but my legs wouldn't work. Ethan reached for me, and I slapped his hand away. "Get out!" I screamed. "Get away from me!" But the damage was done. The perfect garden party became a massacre of reputation. Guests fled like the place was on fire. Within minutes, videos were already being uploaded to social media. Baby shower from hell would trend for days. Catherine approached me as I sat in the wreckage of overturned chairs and abandoned plates. "We'll need a paternity test," she said, her voice arctic. "Our lawyers will be in touch." She left me there, sitting alone among the ruins of my own making, pink and white balloons still bobbing cheerfully in the spring breeze. Daniel moved out that night, Not dramatically, not with screaming and thrown objects. He just quietly packed a bag and left while I sobbed and begged and made promises we both knew I couldn't keep. "Please," I grabbed his arm as he headed for the door. "Let me explain. It didn't mean anything. You're the one I love. You're the father of—" "Don't!" He pulled away from me. "Don't you dare try to tell me I'm the father." "Not after what happened today. Daniel, please. Think about our life together. Think about everything we've built." He turned then, and the pain in his eyes was unbearable. I did think about it. For the past 4 hours, while everyone in this town texted me to say how sorry they were, while my parents cried in their bedroom, while I sat in that nursery I built and wondered if any of it was real. That's all I've been thinking about. It was real. It is real. I made a mistake. A mistake? His laugh was bitter. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is a drunken kiss at an office party. You had an affair while pregnant with what might not even be my child, and then let me find out in front of everyone we know. That's not a mistake, Nicole. That's a deliberate destruction. When the door clicked shut, the silence it left behind was more deafening than any scream. The paternity test came back when Lily was 2 weeks old. I'd prayed for a miracle, prayed that she was Daniel's, that biology would give me a second chance. She wasn't. The divorce was swift and brutal. I got nothing. Signed away any claim to alimony in exchange for Daniel not pursuing me for fraud. The furniture store dynasty wanted nothing to do with me or my daughter. Catherine's final words to me were, "I hope she was worth it." The meeting with the lawyers was excruciating. I sat across from Daniel in a conference room that smelled like leather and disappointment. He wouldn't look at me, just signed wherever they pointed. His lawyer, a woman with steel gray hair and no sympathy in her eyes, laid out my options. "You can fight this," she said, "but I should warn you that adultery combined with potential paternity fraud doesn't play well in court, especially when there are 200 witnesses to your, shall we say, public humiliation of my client." "I understand," I whispered. Daniel finally spoke then, still staring at the papers. "The house was a gift from my parents. It's in their name. You have 30 days to vacate, 30 days to pack up a life, 30 days to dismantle the nursery he'd built with such love, 30 days to figure out how a woman with no job, no money, and no reputation survives with a newborn." "What about the baby?" I asked. "If she's yours—" "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it," his lawyer interrupted. "After the paternity test." Ethan stuck around for exactly 3 weeks after Lily was born. Long enough to sign the birth certificate, to take a few photos for his Instagram, to realize that babies are hard work and single mothers aren't sexy. The day he left, Lily had been up all night with colic. I was exhausted, covered in spit up, trying to rock her to sleep when he announced he was taking a job in Denver. "You're leaving?" I stared at him over our screaming daughter. "Now?" "It's a good opportunity," he said, not meeting my eyes. "I'll send money when I can." "You said you wanted this. You said you wanted us to be a family." He just shrugged. "Look, this is a lot. This isn't the picture I had in my head." "You literally signed up for it." I wanted to throw something at him. "You announced it at my baby shower. You destroyed my marriage for this." "Hey, you destroyed your own marriage," he shot back. "I just told the truth." He left that afternoon with a duffel bag and empty promises. No forwarding address, no real commitment to the child he'd claimed so publicly. He hasn't sent a dime. So here I am rocking my daughter in a house I can't afford, in a town where everyone knows my story. I work at a call center now, the kind of place that doesn't care about your past as long as you show up. My parents help when they can, but the shame sits between us like a wall. They love Lily, but look at me like I'm a stranger wearing their daughter's face. The worst part is the isolation. Not just romantic, though no decent man would touch me with a 10-foot pole after what happened. It's the complete erasure from a life I spent years building. The couples we used to have dinner with, the women from the club who used to save me a spot at Pilates, Daniel's family who had embraced me so completely, all gone. I scroll through social media sometimes, torturing myself. Daniel's dating someone new, a pediatric nurse who looks nothing like me, wholesome, trustworthy, the kind of woman who would never destroy her own life for pool house sex with a contractor. They look happy in the photos from last month's furniture expo. Lily stirs in my arms, makes a small sound of contentment. She has Ethan's eyes, constant reminders of my stupidity. But she also has this way of smiling that's all her own, untouched by the chaos of her origin story. I think about the life she should have had. The grandparents who would have doted on her, the trust fund that would have paid for college, the stable home with 2 parents who loved each other, the family name that meant something in this town. Instead, she has me, a mother who threw away her birthright for an affair that meant nothing. A mother who sits in a rocking chair at 3 a.m, whispering apologies to a baby who can't understand them yet. I tell her about Daniel sometimes, how he painted her nursery himself, spending weekends making sure the butterflies were perfect, how he used to sing to my belly off-key renditions of Beatles songs, how he would have loved her completely if I hadn't destroyed everything. But mostly I just rock her and think about how one moment of selfishness can unravel an entire life. I had a husband who cherished me, a family who welcomed me, a future mapped out in comfort and love. I traded it all for the thrill of being desired by someone who didn't really want me either, just the conquest of another man's pregnant wife. The baby shower plays in my mind on repeat, that moment when Ethan appeared at the edge of the garden. I could have denied everything, could have had him removed, could have found a way to explain it later, in private, maybe even convinced Daniel to forgive one mistake. But I froze. Let the truth detonate in front of everyone who mattered. Let my husband find out he'd been betrayed in the cruelest possible way, publicly, surrounded by family and friends at a celebration of what he thought was his daughter. That's what haunts me most. Not just that I cheated, but how I let him find out. The humiliation on top of the betrayal, the videos that still circulate online, tagged with things like cheating wife exposed and baby shower drama. His pain served up as entertainment for strangers. Lily's finally asleep again. I put her back in the crib, careful not to wake her. In a few hours, I'll drop her at the babysitter's and head to my shift at the call center. 8 hours of "thank you for calling, how can I help you today?" while trying not to think about the life I should be living. Sometimes customers recognize my name. "Aren't you the woman from that baby shower video?" they'll ask, and I'll pretend I don't know what they're talking about. But I know. Everyone knows. In a town like Asheville, scandal has a long memory. I've thought about moving, starting fresh somewhere nobody knows my story. But that takes money I don't have, and courage I lost somewhere between the positive pregnancy test and the sound of Daniel's car pulling away for the last time. So I stay, raising my daughter in the shadow of my own wreckage. Her last name is Ethan's, but she'll grow up without him. When she's old enough to ask why she doesn't have a daddy like other kids, what will I tell her? The truth. That her mother's selfishness robbed her of 2 fathers? That she's the product of an affair that destroyed multiple lives? That her very existence was the bomb that blew up a family? Or maybe I'll lie. Tell her he died, or that we loved each other but it didn't work out. Give her a prettier story than the ugly truth of her conception in a half-built pool house while another man planned her nursery. The house is quiet now except for the hum of the baby monitor and the tick of the clock Catherine gave us as a wedding gift. I should sell it, along with anything else from that life that might bring in money. But I can't. These objects are all that's left of who I used to be, before I became the cautionary tale mothers whisper about at playgrounds. Tomorrow, Catherine and Robert's other grandchild turns 1. There will be a party, I'm sure. A gathering of family that Lily will never be part of. In a house she'll never visit. Celebrating a cousin she'll never know. All because I couldn't appreciate what I had until I destroyed it. I close my eyes and try to imagine a different timeline. One where Ethan never walked into that garden. Where I gave birth to Daniel's daughter and lived happily in my glass castle. Where Sunday dinners with the in-laws and charity galas and couples vacations were still my reality. But that timeline died the first time I let another man touch me while my husband's baby grew inside me. Or maybe it wasn't even his baby. Maybe I was never carrying anything but the instrument of my own destruction. The sun's starting to rise now, painting the sky the same pink as those baby shower balloons. Somewhere across town, Daniel's probably waking up next to his pediatric nurse, living his life, moving on, being happy without me. And here I sit, in a house full of ghosts and baby toys, waiting for my daughter to wake up so I can pretend for another day that I'm not drowning in the consequences of my own choices. That being her mother makes up for everything I took from her. That love is enough when it's all you have left to give. But I know better. Love doesn't pay for college or provide stable homes or give you grandparents who would have treasured you. Love doesn't erase the fact that I chose momentary pleasure over lifetime security, chose the thrill of an affair over the safety of marriage, chose myself over everyone who mattered. Lily starts crying again, right on schedule. I stand up, smooth down my old t-shirt, and go to her. Because that's what you do. You get up, you go on, you pretend the weight of your mistakes isn't crushing you. You rock your baby at dawn and whisper promises you can't keep, in a house you can't afford, in a life you destroyed with your own hands. And you have no one to blame but yourself.